We're a very professional organization here.
They say power is measured by the size of your office, the weight of your title, the deference in people's voices when you walk into a room. But Marcus Webb was about to discover something darker, that in some spaces, none of that matters if your skin is the wrong color. In 60 seconds, a middle manager's assumption would trigger a chain of events that would expose a corporation's hidden rot, threaten a deal worth more than most people earn in 10 lifetimes, and force everyone in that building to confront a question they'd been avoiding for years. What happens when the person you just humiliated turns out to be the only one who can save you?
Marcus Webb didn't look like what people expected when they heard the title Senior Investment Director. At 38, he preferred denim shirts to power suits, carried a worn leather briefcase instead of a designer attaché, and had a habit of arriving early to observe rather than make entrances. His colleagues at Meridian Capital called it Marcus's style, understated, cerebral, deliberate. His adversaries in boardrooms across 3 continents called it something else, devastating. This particular Tuesday morning in downtown Chicago, Marcus had one objective: finalize the Thornhill merger. $300 million, 18 months of negotiation, a deal that would either cement Meridian's reputation as a major player in sustainable infrastructure or expose them as overextended and reckless. Marcus had structured every clause, anticipated every objection, cultivated relationships with 7 different stakeholders across 4 countries. The meeting scheduled for 10 a.m. would be a formality, his formality. He arrived at the Pemberton Tower at 9:15 a.m., briefcase in hand, visitor badge authorization pre-approved by Thornhill's CEO personally. The lobby gleamed with that particular sterility of buildings that cost more per square foot than most homes. Marcus had been in 1,000 lobbies like this. He'd closed deals in Dubai penthouses and Shanghai skyscrapers, had negotiated with ministers and magnates. He knew the geography of power. What he didn't know, what he couldn't have anticipated, was that Pemberton Tower's 32nd floor had recently hired a new operations manager named Jennifer Alcott. And Jennifer Alcott had very specific ideas about who belonged in executive spaces. The elevator ride was uneventful. Marcus reviewed his notes one final time, mentally rehearsing the pivot points where resistance might emerge. The Thornhill CFO was cautious about the timeline. Marcus had prepared 3 alternative acceleration scenarios. The sustainability consultant had concerns about carbon offset projections. Marcus had commissioned an independent audit that exceeded their requirements, every angle covered, every contingency anticipated. The elevator opened onto the 32nd floor at 9:47 a.m., 13 minutes early. Perfect. The reception area was empty, except for a young woman at the desk who smiled professionally and asked him to wait while she confirmed his appointment, standard procedure. Marcus nodded, settling into one of the modern chairs that looked expensive but felt like sitting on geometry. He could see the conference room through glass walls, the long table, the presentation screen already displaying the Thornhill Meridian logo he'd helped design, the folders at each seat containing projections he'd spent 3 weeks perfecting. That's when Jennifer Alcott emerged from a side office. She was tall, blonde, wearing a suit that screamed middle management trying to project executive authority. Her eyes swept the reception area with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd made it their mission to police boundaries. Those eyes landed on Marcus, and something shifted in her expression. A tightening around the mouth, a narrowing of focus. Marcus had seen that look before, in airport lounges, in restaurant entryways, in 1,000 micro-moments across his career. It was the look of someone mentally rearranging reality to match their expectations and finding him incongruent with the space he occupied. "Can I help you?" Jennifer's voice carried that particular pitch of polite hostility. Marcus glanced up from his phone. I'm here for the 10 o'clock with Thornhill executives, Marcus Webb, Meridian Capital. The 10 o'clock, Jennifer repeated the words, as if testing them for credibility. And you said you're with Meridian. Something cold flickered in Marcus's chest. The receptionist was already pulling up his appointment confirmation on her screen, but Jennifer had moved closer, positioning herself between Marcus and the hallway leading to the conference room. That's correct, Marcus said evenly. I should be on the visitor list. The CEO's office sent confirmation yesterday. Jennifer's smile was sharp as glass. I'm sure there's been a confusion. The Thornhill meeting is C-level executives only. Perhaps you're here for a different meeting. We have several conference rooms on this floor. The receptionist looked uncomfortable. Miss Alcott, I have his authorization right here. I'll handle this, Brittany. Jennifer's tone silenced the younger woman instantly. She turned back to Marcus with that same crystalline smile. I manage floor access, and I need to verify everyone who enters our executive spaces. I'm sure you understand. Security protocols. Marcus understood perfectly. He'd understood from the moment her eyes had landed on him. But he also understood something Jennifer Alcott didn't. That in the conference room 20 feet away, 7 executives were preparing to sign documents that would shape his company's future. And they were expecting him. My condemnification is in order, Marcus said quietly. The receptionist has confirmed my appointment. I'd appreciate it if you'd allow me to proceed to the conference room. I'd appreciate, Jennifer's voice rose slightly, if you'd wait here while I verify with our security team. We've had issues recently with unauthorized individuals attempting to access executive floors. The words hung in the air like smoke. Unauthorized individuals. Marcus felt a familiar exhaustion settle over him. Not surprise, never surprise anymore, just the bone-deep tiredness of having to prove his right to exist in spaces he'd earned entry to 1,000 times over again. Behind the glass wall of the conference room, movement. Executives were beginning to arrive. Marcus recognized Thornhill's CFO, then the CEO. In approximately 8 minutes, they would expect him to walk through that door and guide them through the final phase of a deal that would define quarters of financial performance. And standing between him and that room was a woman who decided, in the span of 30 seconds, that he didn't belong.
I don't have time for this. Marcus kept his voice level, professional, but firm. The meeting begins in 7 minutes. I've been cleared by Thornhill's CEO personally. If you need verification, call Richard Thornhill directly. His number is... Sir, I'm going to need you to lower your voice. Jennifer's words were a weapon disguised as concern. Her hand moved toward her phone, a gesture Marcus recognized with sinking certainty. She was calling security. I haven't raised my voice. Marcus stood slowly, deliberately non-threatening in his movements, but the briefcase in his hand suddenly felt like evidence, like something that needed explaining. I'm simply asking to attend a meeting I was invited to. The receptionist, Brittany, was staring at her computer screen with obvious distress. Miss Alcott, his credentials are verified in the system. Meridian Capital, Senior Investment Director. The appointment was flagged as VIP priority. That's what I'm trying to establish, Brittany. Jennifer's tone suggested the younger woman was being naive, dangerously so. Anyone can put a title in a system. I need to verify. She emphasized the word as if it were a sacred duty. Sir, I'm going to ask you again to wait in the lobby downstairs while we confirm your identity. Through the glass, Marcus could see Thornhill's CEO checking his watch. The CFO was arranging papers. They were expecting him. They were expecting the man who'd spent 18 months building their confidence, who'd answered every question, who'd resculptured financing to align with their risk tolerance, who'd convinced their board that Meridian wasn't just another investment firm, but a partner who understood their vision. And that man was being told he looked like a security risk. I'm not going to the lobby. Marcus kept his hands visible, his posture open, doing all the things he'd learned over decades to make himself appear less threatening, a skill set he'd never wanted to master, but had been forced to perfect. I'm simply asking to attend a meeting I was invited to.
Jennifer's expression shifted from officious to alarmed. "Sir, if you refuse to comply, I will have security remove you. Remove me from a meeting I'm scheduled to lead. Do you understand what you're doing right now? I understand that you're becoming aggressive." Jennifer's phone was at her ear now. "Yes, this is Jennifer Alcott on 32. I need security immediately. I have an individual refusing to leave the executive floor." The word aggressive hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd stood perfectly still, kept his voice even, done everything possible to de-escalate, and still he was being coded as dangerous, as someone who needed to be removed. "I am not aggressive," he said, and hated that he had to say it. Hated that his calm denial of aggression would itself be read as aggression. "I'm a professional, here for a scheduled meeting. Security is on the way." Jennifer positioned herself more prominently between Marcus and the conference room, as if she were protecting executives from a threat. Other staff members were emerging from offices now, drawn by raised voices. Marcus could feel their stares, could see the calculations happening behind their eyes. The same calculation Jennifer had made. Black man, agitated, doesn't belong. The elevator chimed. 2 security guards emerged, and Marcus felt the situation crystallize into something inevitable and terrible. Both guards were white. Both carried themselves with that particular swagger of authority. Both had already decided, Marcus could see it in their body language, that he was the problem. "This gentleman is refusing to leave the executive floor," Jennifer announced with the satisfied tone of someone whose judgment was being validated. The older guard, name tag reading Patterson, approached with practiced caution. "Sir, we're going to need you to come with us. I'm here for a 10 o'clock meeting. My credentials are verified in your system. The receptionist can confirm. This is a misunderstanding. Sir, you're creating a disturbance." Patterson's hand moved toward Marcus's arm. "Don't touch me." Marcus stepped back, and the movement, defensive, instinctive, was immediately misread. The second guard moved closer, flanking him. "I have every right to be here. Call Richard Thornhill. Call my office. Call anyone, but do not touch me." Through the glass wall, the Thornhill executives were standing now, watching the commotion. Marcus made eye contact with the CEO, Richard Thornhill himself, the man who'd sent him a congratulatory email just yesterday, praising his meticulous preparation and steady leadership. But from this distance, through glass, with security guards between them, that connection meant nothing. Thornhill looked confused, then concerned. Then, Marcus watched it happen. He turned away, back to the table, as if the disturbance was someone else's problem to solve. "Sir, you need to calm down." Patterson's voice had that rehearsed quality of someone following a script. De-escalation protocol. Except the premise was wrong. Marcus was already calm, was calm, had been calm from the beginning. But his calmness was being read as threat, his professionalism as defiance. "I am calm," he enunciated each word carefully. "I am a senior investment director with Meridian Capital. I am here to lead a $300 million merger negotiation, and I am being treated like a criminal because—" He stopped himself, but everyone in that hallway knew how the sentence ended. "Because what?" Jennifer's voice was sharp. "If you're suggesting race has anything to do with this, doesn't it?" Marcus felt something breaking inside him. All the years of measured responses and careful de-escalation and swallowed dignity. "Tell me honestly, would you have stopped a white man in a denim shirt? Would you have called security on someone who looks like your colleagues?" "I would have stopped anyone who couldn't verify their credentials," Jennifer shot back, but her face was flushed now, defensive. "This has nothing to do with—" "It has everything to do with it, and you know it." Marcus's voice was rising now, not aggressive, but exhausted. The exhaustion of having to explain his humanity for the 10,000th time. "I am not aggressive." Patterson's hand closed around Marcus's arm. "Sir, you need to come with us now."
The touch was firm, professional, but in that moment it represented everything. Every time he'd been followed in stores, every time he'd been asked if he was lost in upscale neighborhoods, every time his accomplishments had been questioned as if they needed extraordinary verification that his white colleagues never faced. "Get your hands off me." Marcus pulled his arm away, and the guard tightened his grip. And suddenly there were hands on both his arms, both guards moving him toward the elevator. And Jennifer was saying something about documentation of the incident. And other staff members were filming on their phones. And through it all, Marcus could see the conference room, the table where he was supposed to be sitting, the presentation he was supposed to be giving, the deal he'd spent 18 months building. And the elevator doors opened. They were moving him inside. And Marcus realized with crystalline clarity that in trying to defend his right to be there, he'd confirmed all the assumptions they had made about him. The angry black man, the disturbance, the threat. The elevator doors closed, and in the narrowing gap Marcus saw Jennifer Alcott watching with satisfaction, saw Brittany, the receptionist, with her hand over her mouth in horror, saw the conference room where executives were checking their phones, confused about why the meeting wasn't starting. And then the doors closed, and he was descending, and everything he had built was 32 floors above him, slipping away.
The lobby felt like a different planet. Marble floors that had gleamed with promise 45 minutes ago now reflected Marcus's humiliation back at him in cold, indifferent light. Patterson and the second guard, name tag reading Morrison, positioned themselves between Marcus and the elevators as if he might bolt. "We're going to need you to wait here while we verify your story," Patterson said, not unkindly, but with the weary authority of someone who'd done this countless times. To how many other black professionals, Marcus wondered, how many other accomplished people had stood in this exact spot, credentials in hand, trying to prove they weren't threats? "My phone," Marcus said quietly. "Can I at least call my office?" Patterson exchanged glances with Morrison. "Let's wait for building management to arrive." "The meeting started 3 minutes ago." Marcus felt his composure fracturing completely. "Do you understand what you've done? That deal, that room full of executives up there, they're waiting for me. And every minute I'm down here, I'm losing credibility, I'm losing their confidence, I'm losing," his voice cracked, "I'm losing everything I worked for." "Sir, if there's been a misunderstanding." "If?" The word came out harsh, broken. "You think there's an if here? You think maybe I was actually an intruder? Maybe I was dangerous? Look at me! Look at me!" Marcus held out his briefcase. "Open it. Go ahead. You'll find merger documents, financial projections, sustainability reports. You'll find 18 months of my life. You'll find proof of exactly who I said I was." Morrison shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, we're just doing our jobs." "Your jobs." Marcus laughed, a sound without humor. "Your jobs are to protect this building from people who don't belong, and you decided I don't belong in 30 seconds. You didn't check the system, you didn't verify with the executives waiting for me. You looked at me and made a decision." Patterson's expression had shifted, uncertainty creeping in, the first shadow of doubt. The operations manager said, "The operations manager saw a black man and panicked." Marcus spoke the words clearly, deliberately, making Patterson hold the weight of them. "That's what happened. That's what always happens. And you helped her." His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, hands shaking now, adrenaline and rage and grief all mixing together, and saw messages flooding in. From his assistant, "Where are you? Thornhill's CEO is asking." From his colleague, Sarah, "Marcus, what's going on? They're saying you didn't show." From Meridian's president, "Call me immediately." Each message was a nail in the coffin of his professional reputation. Each one proof that while he stood in this lobby, being treated like a criminal, the deal he'd built was collapsing. Thornhill's team would see his absence as flaky at best, disrespectful at worst. They'd question his reliability. They'd wonder if Meridian Capital was really the stable partner they'd believed. And by tomorrow, competitors would hear whispers. Webb didn't even show up to his own meeting. What kind of operation is Meridian running? I need to make a call. He didn't wait for permission. He dialed Richard Thornhill's direct line, a number he'd been given 6 months ago with instructions to use any time, day or night. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Thornhill's voice, tense. "Marcus, where the hell are you?" "In your lobby," Marcus forced his voice level. "Being detained by security because your operations manager decided I didn't look like I belonged in your building." Silence. Then, "What?" "Jennifer Alcott, your operations manager. She stopped me from entering the meeting, called security, had me physically removed from the 32nd floor." The words felt surreal, even as Marcus spoke them. "I'm standing in your lobby right now with 2 security guards who are making sure I don't try to come back up. Put one of them on the phone, now." Marcus handed his phone to Patterson. Watched the guard's expression shift from defensive to confused to deeply uncomfortable as Thornhill's voice, even through the phone Marcus could hear it, sharp as breaking glass, tore into him. The call lasted 90 seconds. When Patterson handed the phone back, his face was gray. "Mr. Webb, there's been a terrible mistake. Please, we'll escort you back up immediately." Marcus stared at the phone in his hand, at the messages still coming in. At the time, 10:14 a.m., 14 minutes late to the most important meeting of his career, not because he'd overslept or forgotten, not because he'd been unprepared or unprofessional, but because someone had looked at his skin and decided he was dangerous. "A mistake," Marcus repeated softly. "Sir, please, Mr. Thornhill wants you upstairs immediately." "And what about Jennifer Alcott? Is she still up there, still managing your floor, still deciding who belongs and who doesn't?" Patterson looked away. "That's not my decision to make, sir." Marcus could go back up. He could salvage the meeting, probably. Could smooth things over with his trademark calm diplomacy. Could pretend this hadn't happened, hadn't cut him to the core, hadn't proven that no matter how qualified he was, how prepared, how professional, none of it mattered if someone decided he looked wrong. Or he could stand in this lobby and finally refuse to make it easy for them.
Marcus stood in that lobby for 7 seconds that felt like an eternity. 7 seconds to decide what his dignity was worth. 7 seconds to choose between swallowing this humiliation and preserving a deal, or standing his ground and watching 18 months of work collapse. He pressed the phone to his ear. "Richard, I need to know something before I come back up." "Marcus, I'm so sorry. I don't need apologies. I need to know if Jennifer Alcott is still on that floor, if she's going to be in that building tomorrow, if the people who did this to me are going to face any consequences, or if you're going to do what companies always do, apologize to me privately, change nothing publicly, and expect me to be grateful you acknowledge the problem?" The silence on the other end stretched. Marcus could picture Thornhill, powerful CEO, used to making quick decisions, now trapped between corporate liability and actual justice. Could picture him calculating the optics, the HR implications, the potential lawsuit. "She's being removed from the floor now," Thornhill said, finally. "And Marcus, I give you my word, this will be addressed fully. But right now, I have 6 executives in this room who flew in from 3 countries to finalize this deal, and they need you. They need you." The words that should have felt like validation instead felt like a bargain. "We hurt you, but we need you, so come fix things for us. Come back to the room where everyone watched you be dragged away. Come present to people who turned their backs when you needed them. Come be professional while we investigate whether you deserved to be treated like a human being." But Marcus also knew those executives in that room were making decisions about sustainable infrastructure that would impact thousands of jobs, would shape energy policy, would determine whether clean technology got funding or got shelved. The deal was bigger than his pride. Wasn't it? He took the elevator back to the 32nd floor. Patterson and Morrison flanked him. Protection now instead of restraint, but the irony was bitter. When the doors opened, Jennifer Alcott was being escorted past by a stern-looking HR director. Their eyes met for just a second. Hers were red, defensive, already crafting herself as the victim of oversensitivity, of cancel culture, of a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. Marcus said nothing. There was nothing to say that would penetrate that wall of defensive denial. In the conference room, the Thornhill executive stood as he entered. Thornhill himself approached with hand extended, apology written across his face. "Marcus, I cannot express how. Let's focus on the deal. That's why we're here." And for the next 3 hours, Marcus did what he'd been trained to do. Presented flawlessly, answered questions with precision, guided the discussion through every complexity and contingency, watched signatures go on documents, watched a $300 million deal close exactly as he'd structured it. He was brilliant, professional, unshakable. And inside, something had broken that would never quite heal. 3 months later, Thornhill Corporation's internal investigation concluded that Jennifer Alcott had acted on unconscious bias and recommended additional diversity training for staff. She was quietly transferred to another division with no loss of pay. The security guards received written reprimands that would be removed from their files after 6 months. The company released a statement about their ongoing commitment to inclusive excellence. Marcus received a formal apology letter, a bonus for closing the deal, an invitation to Thornhill's Diversity Advisory Board, unpaid, of course, because nothing says we value you like asking you to fix the problems that hurt you for free. He declined. The story leaked eventually, as these stories always do. Made rounds on LinkedIn, sparked debates about corporate racism, trended for 48 hours before the news cycle moved on. Some people called Marcus a hero for maintaining his professionalism. Others criticized him for not walking away, for prioritizing a deal over dignity. Marcus read the comments once, then never again. Because here's what the debate missed. Marcus shouldn't have had to be heroic, shouldn't have had to choose between his dignity and his career, shouldn't have spent 18 months building trust only to have it shattered because someone decided his skin made him suspicious. The system that put him in that position, that trained Jennifer Alcott to see threats instead of professionals, that taught security guards to detain first and verify later, that created an environment where a black man's credentials are always questionable until proven otherwise, that system survived intact. Renamed a few policies, updated some training, called it progress. And Marcus? He closed more deals, built his reputation, became senior vice president 2 years later, proved again and again that he belonged in those rooms. But he never forgot the feeling of being dragged away from his own meeting, never forgot watching executives turn their backs, never forgot standing in that lobby having to convince armed guards that his briefcase contained documents, not dangers.